Hello, this is a video on installing BC Racing Coilovers on a 2014 Taurus. This is for the 2010 and up Taurus or Taurus SHO. This video is an extreme thumbnail sketch of exactly what you're getting into if you want to put these on. It is not extremely detailed and it's not even meant to be, but just gives you an idea in case you are looking to do it. Thanks for watching.
Hey guys, we're now going to go ahead and remove the strut here. This is the factory strut. The two nuts that are on there are 15/16 and they're on there pretty tight, so what you want to do is loosen those up. And then also we have the sway bar link here, and that's 13/16 nut that goes right up there. These are usually on there pretty tightly, but those are the first few things that you have to remove. After the lower knuckle bolts are disconnected and knocked out, you can go ahead and remove the four top strut bolts here, which are 15 millimeter. Okay, then you also go ahead and disconnect the speed wheel sensor electrical line. There's a small zip tie retainer right there on the strut, and that'll have to come out. You have to fight with it, but it'll come out here pretty quickly. Alright, now that all that's done, we just go ahead and wrestle the strut body right out of the car. Okay, once the lines and everything are out, that strut body will come right out of there. Okay, and this is the BC strut there, and what we like about the whole thing is that not only is the collar that the spring sits on adjustable that goes inside the strut body, but also you can loosen up this with the spanner wrenches and you can actually adjust the spring tension too on the strut. Now on these Tauruses, the housing right here is ever so slightly offset, and so you want the strut shaft right here to be offset towards the front. And that's they're also left and right specific. Now we have the strut body back inside the car. It's a perfect fit, really high quality. Everything lines up really good. The construction is great. Everything just slides right in there. It's almost like a factory piece except adjustable. BC comes with their own hardware that goes in there, so we go ahead and put it up into the strut tower and just finger tighten the nuts that go on there. One thing that I really do like about these BC struts is even for these wheel speed sensor, they have a little offset bracket right here. And so that comes out of the strut on the stock one, and that will fit right into there like that. So the fit and finish again is extremely good. So now after that's back inside there, we'll go ahead and put the bolts back in, tighten those down. Okay, now we want to go ahead and tighten the sway bar bracket back down in there, the end link. 13/16 nut with a 10 millimeter stud. Put those both on there so one's not spinning. Okay, after the strut's all in there, go ahead and tighten the nuts down on the shock tower. The BC supplied nuts are 9/16. Okay, now that the strut's totally in, we're ready to put it back, wheels back on and get it back down on the ground. But one thing I definitely want to mention to you before you make a purchase, if you decide to do so, is that once the strut is in, this area right here is going to have to be cut out or clearanced, because you can see right there the strut adjustments for the caster camber and all that are all there, but with the stock strut tower not modified, you cannot reach the bolts. So from what I understand from the BC site, the Mustang also has to be clearanced, so that's something we're going to do later, but I definitely want to point that out to you, that that's what you're looking at if you do decide to make these purchases.
Okay, now the wheels are back on and we're for the moment of truth here. Okay, now we're on the back of the car. We've already got it jacked up and up on jack stands. So the Taurus has a separate shock and spring right there. So the first thing that we'll have to do is get to the top of the nut right there on this shock. So on the Taurus, the first thing you'll have to do is remove these retaining clips on the side of the liner in the trunk. There's two here. And then down here you have a cargo retainer. You'll pull that down. And then on the inside you'll want to go ahead and pull these two push pins. You can use a wire stripper, get them back in behind there, and pop these things out. There's one right there, and there's also one right there that we've removed. So you get to that, and you can pull the cargo hole, cover back, and then you'll be able to get to the shock nut. Okay, we go ahead and pull the cargo cover back. And right up in here you'll have some sound deadener. And right back inside here will be the nut back in there for the shock somewhere. Okay, back in that spot is where you'll find the strut nut and all that. That's an 18mm nut. Okay, we got the top of the strut mount off there, or shock mount rather, and we'll have to save that for later. And then on the bottom of the shock here, you're going to have to remove the sway bar end link right here. The stud right there is a 7mm. Fits on there because I guarantee you that's going to spin. And then the nut is a 15mm. So we'll have to loosen that up and loosen this up too, and then you'll be able to get to that shock mount right there. Okay, we got the stock strut out, and these are them compared next to each other with the BC strut or shock, and comes out really pretty easily. But on the factory shock, you're going to have to use your stock mount rubber bushing right there. That's going to go on there, and of course you'll use the stock when it goes on here. Now BC supplies a nut, because this is welded on the factory right here. The BC supplies this one right here that you use as the replacement, but you'll use the factory bolt as you put it back into the car. And also I was saying earlier that you had to remove the upper part of the end link. Well, I was saying you had to remove both. Actually, you only have to do the top one and just swing that down. Okay, and the next thing we have to do is lower the jack, and we'll remove the stock spring. Okay, here we have the stock spring, and then right over here we have the BC spring. So you can see there's quite a bit shorter here, and in the kit we have the adjustment sleeve that goes on. So you have this plastic isolator ring, and then you have this that goes on top like that, and this part right here will be towards the upside. So this is how the orientation is going to go inside the car. Okay, to remove the entire spring, you want to remove this bolt right here and remove the end link for the sway bar. This bolt comes out of the lower control arm, and the whole thing will slide down, and you'll be able to pop the spring right out. Okay, now that we have the coilovers on the Taurus, what we're going to do is lower the car another inch. So what you do is you loosen up the lower lock ring, and you turn it in clockwise. You use the larger spanner wrench, and you go ahead and turn that in. And what it does is it actually allows that collar to go into the strut body without actually changing spring preload or anything like that. So on this car, we're going to go down another 3/4 of an inch on the front. Okay, just by putting the BC coilovers in there, it lowered the car about 2 inches. But we want to go down for another 3/4 of an inch. So we loosen up these spanner locking rings,
And then once these are loose, you can turn this by your hand. And after we were measuring it, we were able to get this down 3/4 of an inch and then lock these spanners. And what we're getting ready to do here is the same amount of distance that we lowered the coil, we want to go ahead and lower on the shock as well. Three-quarter? Okay. Okay, now on the strut here, or the shock, once you loosen up the lock ring, you can go ahead and turn the entire shock body in to the desired height. And then once that's done, you go ahead and retighten up the lock ring.
Well, after the entire install and getting the car back on the ground, we were able to adjust the car down to 2 3/4 of an inch. The dampeners are adjustable also for bound and rebound, and we had those set at middle at about 15 clicks. The BC quality coilovers are second to none, and I highly recommend them. I would definitely buy them again. Thanks for watching.